Now we look into the Technologies Readiness Level TRL for Physical Science and Engineering. I must emphasize that it's different for different industry or discipline. It is different from drug discovery, chemicals, or other disciplines. So let us look at the Physical Science and Engineering. TRL 1 is where the basic principles are observed. TRL Level 2 is a technology concept formulated. In fact, I would say that TRL 1 and 2 is more research-based, and TRL 3 is where the experimental proof of concept is shown or proven. And TRL 4 is where technology is validated in the lab. It's kind of a key milestone for the next step. Here, the proof of concept is already advanced to a stage where you can show it clearly in the lab that it's working in a rough way, in a way that your concept is proven, and if you have a few components, you can put it together and it works. TRL 5 is where the technology is validated in a relevant environment. So that means if it's supposed to operate in a harsh environment, hot environment, then you have to show it in that environment that it works. And then TRL 5 is where some investors might be interested. And TRL 6 is where technology is demonstrated in relevant environment. So that means you have to use the blocks and put them together and then put it in the environment that is supposedly operating environment, and you can demonstrate that it works. And this is key because at this stage is also where investors are interested to take a look and be confirmed or verify that it can work, and then they may make investments. TRL 7 is where the system prototype demonstration in the operation environment. So that means just now I say in a hot temperature, here it would mean that it's not only hot but it's operating. That means it's working and all the other factors are taken into consideration because it's an operating environment. And TRL 8 is where the system is complete and qualified. That means qualified could be certified if you're certified by BSI or CE or whatever. And then TRL 9 is an actual system proven operational environment. That means this is already a mass production product, and you can put it into, if it's in a car, it's already operating in a car. If it's in a mobile phone, it's operating in a mobile phone. And people can use it with full confidence that everything will be okay. So TRL 9 is the most mature. Now, let's look at another type of industry or discipline. Here we talk about healthcare or drug discovery. And healthcare or drug discovery is slightly different, or you can say very different. It depends on how you look at it. Because from TRL 1 to TRL 9, the years to go through or the time to go through is much longer. It could take up to 12 years. That means from research to putting the drug into the consumer hands or the patient hands, it may go as long as 12 years. So TRL 1 is where you talk about target selection. That means you choose the right target. And here is called hit discovery as well. TRL 2 is where we call lead optimization. And then TRL 3 is in vitro and toxicity and in vitro pharmacokinetics. TRL 4 is where your animal models demonstrated in defined lab environment. And this is a stage where we call large animal testing as well. And some investors are very interested to invest at this stage if you have demonstrated you have achieved this. TRL 5 is pre-IND work where animal and chemical development should be completed and then followed by clinical transition. And of course, here you are talking about FDA or NMPA accredited requirements. TRL 6 is where we have phase 1 clinical trials, and TRL 7 is phase 2 clinical trials. Here, for your information, you can get IPO in Hong Kong if you have all the data ready for continuing phase 2 clinical trials. And then TRL 8 is your phase 3 clinical trials. Finally, your TRL 9, that's where your drug can be put into the hands of patients. Okay, that's for drug discovery. Let's look at MedTech, which is a very different area as well. TRL level 1 is where your basic principles are observed. TRL 2 is where your technology concept formulated. TRL 3 is your experimental proof of concept in vitro and vivo research. 4 is a proof of concept demonstrated in a defined lab environment. And here we use animal models usually, sometimes human models. TRL 5 is where your product development plan is completed. And then TRL 6, where you have your phase 1 clinical trials. TRL 7, clinical safety and effectiveness trials in operational environment. TRL 8, overall risk-benefit trials. TRL 9, medical device can be distributed on market. Here I would mean that your medical device could be used in a patient's environment. That means it will be in a hospital or clinic. For investors, they like to get in. I'm talking about early stage investors. TRL 4 and 5 is the stage where you are very likely to get these early investors to invest in. Now, if you look at the chemicals industry, first you have a TRL 1 is where you have a concept or a vision. And then 2 is where you formulated the concept and you have a list of solutions and also some future R&D activities planned. With that, you move to 3, and here the proof of concept is demonstrated in the lab. And then in 4, you have a documentation of experiment results, multiple process concepts evaluated so that you can have the best process. Moving to TRL 5, here the parameter and property data, field process concepts evaluated in detail. And it must be done properly because it is a small scale working plan that we want to set up. So for 6, where we have a working pilot plan. So with the data earlier, you are implementing into a working pilot plan. So this is critical as you work on it to improve it. And in TRL 7, you optimize the pilot plan. It is a working demonstration of the plan where you have sample production and qualified system. That means you certify that the plan is working properly at this scale. And from the experience of TRL 7, you move on to TRL 8, where you work at finalizing and qualify the system and also come out with a building plan. And with that, you move to TRL 9, where you have a full-scale plan tested and working. And this is where we talk about mass production for the market needs. Okay, let me show you a pictorial form of this. TRL 1 to 3, 2 is more of research, okay? And from 3 to 5, where it is in other words, it's a lab scale. That means you're using beakers and glass to mix the chemicals and so on to prove the concept. So 3 to 5. And then 6 to 7 is where you have a pilot scale. That means some sample production, and to show that as you scale up, you are able to reach a certain size or volume for chemicals. From 8 to 9, this is industrial scale, and If you can look at the slide here, I show you a picture of a chemical plant, and this is what it means industrial scale. That means mass production of certain volume to meet the market demands. Now for investment, early stage investors are interested to come in at the pilot scale. And of course, for industrial scale, you have those big investors, which are a different group. Today, as I mentioned to you, we are only talking about early stage investors. So with that, I'd like to stop here. And if there is any questions, do feel free to look for me. So, bye.
Enjoyed it? Please follow our Patreon channel to learn more about international business, entrepreneurship knowledge, latest innovation, and scholars' insights, and even more. See you soon!